Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now, of course, you guys know my opinion on Ted Cruz. I'm not exactly the biggest fan, but I have to admit, when it comes to rhetoric and when it comes to grilling people on the Senate floor, Ted Cruz is kind of in a league of his own. And just the other day, there was a moment between Ted Cruz and a top DOJ official, where Senator Ted Cruz set up a trap for this DOJ official and caught the guy in a total checkmate moment. It's absolutely incredible, folks. But really what it does is it highlights the horrible double standard within the federal justice system when it comes to left-wingers and right-wingers. And in general, it continues to cement the point that the Democrat Party is the party of lawlessness and enabling crime and extremist groups and extremist action. Let me show you guys this absolutely incredible moment, and then let's talk about why it's important or why it matters. We've got some stuff to get into, folks, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, take a look at this. Ted Cruz checkmates top DOJ official for not enforcing federal law against pro-abortion protesters outside SCOTUS justices' houses. Take a look at this interaction. It's a little bit long, it's over 2 minutes, but it's worth listening till the end.
Let me ask you a different question.
Yes, Senator.
Simultaneously, while violent terrorists are threatening pregnancy centers, we also have had protesters at the homes of Supreme Court justices night after night after night. Now, I believe protesting at someone's home, where your spouse sleeps, where your children sleeps, is inherently threatening. It is designed to be threatening. And we know the violent rhetoric with the encouragement of Democratic members of Congress resulted in at least one deranged individual traveling from California to Maryland to attempt to murder Justice Kavanaugh. Now, as it so happens, Congress has addressed this issue. It's passed 18 U.S.C. Section 1507, making it a crime to protest at the home of a Supreme Court justice while a case is pending. Night after night after night, these protesters committed federal crimes on national television. Why has the Department of Justice refused to enforce 18 U.S.C. Section 1507?
Senator, very recently, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland, in fact, has prosecuted a defendant for unlawful conduct in front of the home of one of our Supreme Court justices.
So one person?
To date, there has been one prosecution.
And what about the hundreds of others? All of whom have violated the law. On the face of it, it's not complicated. The law is very clear. Why does the Department of Justice pick and choose which laws to enforce, which criminal laws to enforce, and why does it seem to exactly follow the pattern of the partisan preferences of the Biden White House?
Again, Senator, politics shouldn't play and does not play any role in our prosecutorial decisions. What I will also add is that our Attorney General has increased the U.S. Marshal Service's resources that are brought to bear to protect our Supreme Court
under Section 1507? Why have there not been any others?
Senator,
does the department believe the law is unconstitutional? And if not, why are you refusing to enforce it?
Respectfully, Senator, I disagree that we've chosen not to enforce it. Again, there's been one prosecution of a
out
defendant.
Of hundreds. What about the rest of the hundreds?
Senator, again, I cannot comment on the current status of potential investigations in this area.
Final question, was the one prosecution you referenced a 1507 prosecution, or was it something else?
I don't believe it was under that statute.
So you haven't brought a single one?
Again, I believe the conduct itself was the focus of the prosecution that you're raising.
I think you need to follow the law.
I mean, first of all, the baseline context to have to challenge the DOJ on whether or not they're enforcing federal crimes or federal laws is an absolutely absurd notion, but it's definitely not surprising if you're paying any attention at all these days. Democrats, and these days what seem to be Democrat federal agencies, have a history of enabling and not enforcing federal crimes when it comes to targeting left-wing political groups. I mean, for Pete's sakes, Antifa has been rampaging communities and burning buildings and assaulting people for years, and the feds haven't even lifted a finger. They're more focused on entrapping uneducated white working class people in phony Michigan kidnapping plots than they're even interested in looking at Antifa, and the whole thing's a massive disgrace. months upon months of protests and intimidation targeting Supreme Court justices, with critics online highlighting that this is a direct violation of federal law. There's an actual law on the books for this exact type of scenario, and the DOJ hasn't made a single arrest. And this is where Ted Cruz caught him real good. He claims that in fact someone was arrested in relation to what Ted Cruz was talking about. Then Ted Cruz questions, well, was that individual charged under US Law 1507? And in the end, they didn't charge this individual under 1507. You have entire groups showing up at people's homes, showing up at restaurants, in various public events, intimidating them and threatening them with violence. One individual currently being charged with attempted homicide of Judge Kavanaugh. Who knows what could have happened to Justice Kavanaugh or his family had that individual's plans not been thwarted, and not a single person has been arrested or charged under that specific law. For those of you guys who are interested, 18 U.S. Code 1507, picketing or parading, reads as such from the Cornell Law School website: whoever with the intent of interfering with, obstructing, or impeding the administration of justice, or with the intent of influencing any judge, juror, witness, or court officer in the discharge of his duty, pickets or parades in or near a building housing a court of the United States, or in or near a building of residence occupied or used by such judge, juror, witness, or court officer, or with such intent uses any sound truck or similar device or resorts to any other demonstration in or near any such building or residence, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. Nothing in this section shall interfere with or prevent the exercise by any court of the United States of its power to punish for contempt. This is a law that directly prohibits parading, picketing, protesting outside a justice's home with the explicit intent of changing the outcome of legal proceedings or decisions. That is by definition what we have been seeing over the last couple of months. And you have a DOJ official who just went on the record, who just got trapped on the record, admitting that they haven't charged a single person. This is a complete disgrace, and it's why we see the left more emboldened in their extremist actions. Remember during BLM and Antifa riots in 2020, after an event in Washington, D.C., Senator Rand Paul and other Republicans were faced with an Antifa mob on the streets, being accosted and nearly assaulted. Well, do you think we would be seeing this stuff over and over again if the DOJ was actually enforcing the law? The answer is very simply no. The law is there as a deterrent. Without the law, or without the enforcement of law, people would do horrible things. If there's no fear of consequence, people will continue to do those horrible things and continue to attract others to commit the same violent acts and criminal acts. The more the DOJ backs off and refuses to enforce these basic laws that protect democracy and the rule of law, the more of these criminal actions we will see. It's basically that simple. And the most despicable element is how this only applies to one side. Groups that are deemed conservative or right-wing extremists, well, the feds are on them like hawks and they would get arrested almost immediately. In fact, the Fed is working so heavily targeting these supposed terrible, deeply dangerous and extreme groups to the extent where they're actually entrapping them. And of course, when it comes to January 6th, we know exactly what's happening. There was no violent victim of the mob on January 6th. No politician was put in harm's way. All we really saw was maybe a little bit of destruction of property and people walking around the Capitol like it was a field trip, and it's treated as a literal domestic terrorist incident. Meanwhile, of course, the summer of riots 2020, well, you get the gist of it. It's rules for thee, but not for me, rules for Republicans, and seemingly no rules and no standards for Democrats and their activist goons on the street. I mean, for Pete's sakes, the White House literally enabled this mob and even supported their actions, claiming it's perfectly acceptable for them to show up outside justices' homes. And now, essentially, the DOJ is basically saying the same thing, now on the record claiming that not a single person was charged with a crime. It's absolutely absurd. The whole thing was premeditated. We knew it was coming because lefties were openly advocating and organizing these events in public, on public forums and social media platforms, even calls to violence and dox people at their homes. The White House encouraged it, and meanwhile, concerned American citizens were pointing out a specific law that these people would be breaking and violating. The DOJ had to have known what was going on. All they had to do was step in and be there on the day. I mean, it's all public information, and arrest people, enforce the law, and say this is unacceptable. You cannot intimidate Supreme Court justices outside of their home because you don't like the decision that was recently released from SCOTUS. But instead, what did they do? Well, they did nothing, and they continue to enable the lawlessness and extremism that we see on the far left side, while continuing to promote the left-wing narrative and Democrat narrative that right-wingers bad, right-wingers domestic homeland threat bad. Meanwhile, the city of Portland is seemingly ran by Antifa goons on the street, black-clad violent militia groups, who get to operate through their violent tactics with absolute impunity. Not near impunity, but absolute impunity. It's a complete disgrace, and this moment with Ted Cruz and this top DOJ official is seriously eye-opening. The Democrat Party and the Democrat goons who run these federal agencies enable all of this extremism and all of the lawlessness, and it's absolutely shameless. That, however, is what I got for you guys in this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you feel like it. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.